Hello and welcome back to Podcasting is Praxis. I'm David, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm James, my pronouns are they and them.
I'm Jamie, my pronouns are he and him.
And I'm Rob, and mine are also he and him.
And welcome to episode 199 of this fucking podcast. It shouldn't have gone on this long, but we can't stop now. So just a quick announcement before we kick off, because I know lots of people fucking bail out as soon as we say the words "Let's play comment" or commentariat. So you get to hear
or
the plug
when we
this
say
time.
our names and yeah.
So we will be having a week off next week because, as I've just said, we've done 199 of these fucking things, and that's enough to earn a break. So we'll be taking that off so that we can go work on the special project, which is episode 200, which will be out the following week. In the meantime, though, you can harass us on the Discord, and you can do that with a Patreon subscription. So if you're so inclined and would like to join us in the run-up to episode 200, you can do so on the Discord through Patreon, which is patreon.com/praxiscast. With the plug out the way, Rob, what is going to be your fault this week?
Well, many things as usual. Very specific ones, I think, as a vile European. But that's for the main topic. No, the first thing is I've found like a new mutant in the world of landlordism that popped up in the Evening Standard last week.
No.
It's in an article called "Meet the Rent Lord," which is the
Rent Lord. Oh, this is just fucking. This is one of the shit Jurassic Park films.
This is people who fucking rent in London while owning property in the north, isn't it?
I mean, I was going to say Kylo Rent, but that's probably a little bit too lowbrow for this podcast. No, yeah, it is exactly
Rent
that.
Barlow,
Basically,
actually.
what you're doing as what you're doing as a rent lord is making life worse for everybody else because you want or feel that somehow you need to have the London lifestyle. So what you do is you pay extortionate rent in London, but in order to be able to afford that, you are a landlord somewhere else, say in Nottingham or something, is one of the examples used in the article. So what you're doing is exporting like London price inflation out to the rest of the nation. And isn't that lovely and cool?
I love to stand on the ladder and peer over the top but not quite climb it and then pull it up behind me.
Yeah.
I think it's technically standing on the ladder and setting fire to it behind you, you know?
Yeah.
You're blocking anyone else's progress up the ladder, which I suppose is good, but at the same time, fuck off.
Yeah. This is Katie from London. I'll quote you a bit from the article. When her sister decided to sell a two-bedroom flat in 2020, Katie, the digital editor for The Boutique Handbook, decided she'd try to buy it. As a first-time buyer buying a buy-to-let property, I needed a deposit of 25%, which I managed using my savings and some help from my parents. Hooray!
Ding, 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 ding.
Also, by the way, if I understood the article correctly, her mom and dad still live locally. I think it's Nottingham in this case, and they act basically as like the tenant's first point of contact. So it's not the landlord; it's like you have to call it the landlord's mom and dad.
A failed child landlord, yeah. Absolutely fantastic. We should just call them fail lords. Like, just cut out the middleman.
I mean, it's a reinvention of like the Stella Creasy thing of like, don't talk to me if you're not in my constituency. It's like, don't talk to me. You have to talk to my mum first about, the fact that the fucking shower doesn't work. Anyway, but
she's
like,
only going to go in there with her arms like full of fucking avocado and toast to try and fix it though. So you can see why her parents are doing that.
That's true. I mean, but don't worry. Like this, of course, it's the Evening Standard, so all of this is painted in like an extremely flattering light. Rent lords are supposed to be more sympathetic to their tenants because they pay rent themselves, so they know what it's like to have the hardships of being a tenant on them.
And yet,
of course, yeah, I could say. And also, the article later on also specifically says, that's not going to stop these people from passing on their own rent increases to their tenants in turn. So, like I said,
Alexa, what is the cycle of abuse?
Yeah, 100%. There were some lovely numbers, by the way, also in it as well. Apparently, the average house price in London is now just a hair over £530,000, and it's 163,000 on average in the northeast. So, just think of the amount of exploitation you could do by like arbitraging between those two house prices. Like, think of how much of a massive shit you could get to be.
This is quantitatively worse than just having like a regular London landlord, because this adds more layers of profit extraction that have to happen. I nearly said exploitation and then decided to say extraction, but it's the same thing. Like,
yeah, what kind of cut are a mum and dad getting?
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah, article doesn't specify, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, like truly spectacular, incredible behavior of just wanting to, seeing how miserable life is and then just making it worse for everybody. Just truly.
Yeah, we've outsourced the pocket money to the misery factory.
Well, isn't this the British way though? Like, you catch abuse and then you roll it downhill on the next guy to make yourself feel better. Like, this is basically just the form of that, where it's doing it with actual material conditions. So,
this is the middle management way of doing that. It's adding in just a completely superfluous fucking layer of failure between two parties that really don't want to have anything to do with each other and yet are forced to because, well, one of them's forced to.
I swear to God, if I had a landlord turned around to me and said, "Oh, mate, I know how you feel. I'm a renter too," I would lose my goddamn rag. Like, I could not keep a lid on it.
Yeah, anyway, something else that's been going well, and I know we probably talk about it a little bit too much, but I do want to give you yet another brief update from the world of Elon Musk and Twitter. Because apart from basically just falling the fuck apart, they have had hit, because the scheme to roll out Twitter Blue and make millions from all the celebrities who definitely want that little blue tick, is they've hit on a new scheme to make money. It was supposed to be, according to MSNBC, it was supposed to be rolled out last Thursday, but I can't get it to work. So maybe try it on your end.
This the thing where Elon Musk pretends to be his own son?
No, this is the thing where you can you can, with a very easy click-through button, buy stocks after recommendation from. Yes, you can. So they've partnered up with one of those online, stock and derivative trading platforms, basically the idea is if you search by not by the usual like hashtag, but by a thing called the cash tag. It's basically where you switch the symbol for a $sign, so not hashtag TSLA but $sign TSLA. The Twitter is supposed to start showing you like the latest trading information and then provide like an easy quick link to like the trading platform, so you could just like start trading right away without taking a pause or anything, which seems like a really good idea for like a number of reasons. Basically, they're trying to cash in on like the AMC GameStop stonks thing, but like 2 years too late.
That's very relevant, yeah.
But yeah, it's looking very positive. So like, not only will you be able to just like buy straight up like stocks on the platform, but also naturally you will be able to buy crypto as well as other asset classes, which makes me trust it even more than I already do.
Can we buy an NFT of that picture of Elon Musk with Ghislaine Maxwell?
So among the other asset classes you'll be able to trade are they're very popular on like e-trading things, like the stuff that you can get on your phone, which are contracts for difference, which we talked about a long time ago in relation to the collapse of Archegos. But basically, those have unlimited downsides. Like, you cannot stop losing money on them.
Isn't that just shorting, Rob?
It's like shorting, but not quite the same as shorting. I go back and listen to a very old episode if you're really interested in knowing the difference, but it's not quite the same. Like it's because shorting only works on the downside. You can also use CFDs for the upside. Basically, they're mainly used for upsiding.
Right, yes, of course. Sorry. Do you know, God, this is so sad. I know it by the acronym. I don't know. It's like when you're saying contracts difference. Like, what's that? Oh, CFDs. Yeah, of course. God damn it. Just shoot me. Just take me out to pasture and shoot me.
Basically, so like you're not quite getting like a buy button on your Twitter feed itself just yet, but like it does seem like it wants to go that way, because I was briefly reminded of like that the fact that Mr. Musk wants to make Twitter the super app, basically like a one-stop shop for all your commerce and your social needs all in one. And this is just like part of it, except that you'll be able to buy more apes and thrilling bitcoins that I assume are doing very well. Also, and like this, just as a hypothetical scenario, because this would of course never come up in real life, but like imagine Elon himself tweeting about like how much he loves artisanal cookies or mangosteen or whatever the fuck, and there's like a big buy button for all like the sad dogs who can't stop worshipping him, but like. How much, and in a purely hypothetical case, of course, can you like front run your own trades or like buy and sell the order flow of that kind of information? That like the potential for like incredible legal entanglements and insider trading like is limitless. So I can't wait for it to be rolled out on Twitter. Like I can't see for any way for this at all to go wrong, especially not for a company that's already like under investigation for several like insider trading related and other scams.
Yeah, this feels like the prelude to Elon being done for securities fraud. I can't imagine any other outcome for this, frankly.
The fun thing about anything that Elon Musk like actually runs is the way that there's always this like just pure strain potential for it to go completely fucked in a way that no one specifically predicts.
Yeah, I mean, like you could use like an analogy of like building a rocket on like a platform and then something going horribly wrong with it. I don't know where I'm getting that from.
Actually, like, here's the thing about it. Like, that rocket fuck up might be the thing that does him in. Because I've had a theory for a while that the reason Elon gets away with a lot of his shit is because he's structurally useful through, like, his rocket ships, essentially, and how useful that is as part of the kind of industry for the, defense contractors, essentially. Like, having someone who can put shit in space is a structurally useful part of your economy. And he's just, like, perma-grounded that, I think, through the most ridiculous decision ever.
No, he's fucked up, because this is a new one they're developing. This is supposed to be, like, a new fucking super heavy solution. And that looks like it's probably fucked for a good while. But he's still got other types of rocket which have been like capable of delivering launches and stuff.
Here's the thing, David. I think they've grounded all of SpaceX, not just the fucked rocket.
I think the desire to put satellites up for the cheap will be something, but yeah.
I mean, yeah. Oh, and one last thing I wanted to mention, as does relate to Elon Musk, because like I can't stop talking about the fucking stupidity, and also not the stupidity of the people who I don't understand what they see in him, but it's like apparently you can buy Tesla Giga beer now. It's only £80 for 3 bottles of beer.
I hate that. This is just Brewdog again, but for even bigger cunts.
Yeah, the bottles, by the way, are supposed to look like Tesla trucks. I'll quote you a little bit from their marketing copy. They have a seamless gloss black sleeve and a glow-in-the-dark Giga watermark.
Get used to wrapping your jaw in a bonnet, because...
Oh, and speaking of brew dogs, apparently these are also brewed using an exclusive strain of cyber hops.
Yeah.
Words, what do they mean?
It's fucking company, man.
Cyber hops. Her next career might be in cyber farming.
Anyway, from the sublimely ridiculous, as does relate to the cyber, to the slightly more prosaic uses of cyber things and much more realistic. I know, James, this is something you posted up a little while ago. Remember when we talked a little bit a while...
I'm suddenly filled with dread at Rob preemptively patching the blame onto me for this one, wherever it is. Oh dear. Go on, Rob.
I mean, you remember when we said about like the upside of all this ASBO shit is that the cops would most likely be too lazy to deal with any of it? And we would be right, because as it turns out, at least from the period of like 2006 to 2015 or something, one of Scotland's biggest police call centres or like control rooms ran for years a fake call sign, literally called DUMY, so just dummy, which let them fake response numbers to like for their number fuckstein for their statistics to show that they were way higher than they actually were without, you know, actually doing anything or going out to like an emergency call or anything like that. So how this would work is the dummy system would show on like the register of calls in like the emergency call room or the control center, whatever it's called, that you would like operators would park calls on this list, which would formally show on like the official register that the calls have been dealt with, but instead they were basically parked on a separate like callback list, like, you know, we'll get to you later kind of list, and sometimes they would actually be dealt with, you know, not within the demanded time frame, but a little bit later. But most times, not. They were just basically not handled whatsoever. So how it would work. How it would work is that basically when you call emergency services, you get patched through to one of these control rooms, and your call gets graded on a 1 to 5. 1 is threat of life or serious crime, and the response time should be a car needs to be there in 5 minutes. A level 2 call demands urgency, a car should be there in 50 minutes, and so on and so forth until the lowest grade, level 5. According
Which is
to
turn up 3 days later and shrug.
Yes, pretty much. It's just
the death cop
turn
system.
up. Yeah. So, according to one table acquired by BBC News, from the period of 9 February to 21 March 2015, 101 priority 1 calls, again, these are threat to life or serious crime, were shunted onto the dummy fake system. And the table suggests that out of those 101 real calls, you know, bright red light emergency calls, only 29 of them that were shunted onto this fake system were actually taken up and investigated, which is,
the system,
you know,
works.
In a way, but like that's still incredible, like, you know, fucking around of, you know, let's say you call and your shit is actually on fire, or like somebody is actually robbing your house,
the police
and you get shunted onto this fucking system. Yeah, well, but, you know, whatever, picking him, you know, I'm not saying there's any situation that,
you are on fire.
having the police involved would actually make things better, but, you know, still no. So, and of the, just a bit lower down the rankings, of the, in this same time period, of the just over 1,500 priority 5 calls, so the lowest, only 447 would actually at some point be taken off this dummy reserve fake list system. And then be dealt with. So, you know, like, yeah, it's lowest level stuff, but, you know, the chances that the police would actually come and give you the crime number, which is what they're actually for, so you can claim on your insurance, is also basically, it's like a chance of 1 in 3 that they actually show up at all.
What I love about this story, because I did a bit of a dig into it, this whole thing got started because the dummy queue was initially made as just like a placeholder while they were testing it. And then they kept it when they did like partial implementation, because they didn't like roll it all out like in total immediately. They like staged it in. And so they just kept the dummy queue while they were staging it in, and like, oh yeah, well, you know, we've got the dummy queue for test purposes, and we also got it as like a holding pen. But what you're meant to do with that dummy is just like pass it over to the existing services that you're like slowly phasing out. So if your dummy queue starts being filled, that's when that gets shifted to the initial service that you're trying to replace. But what happened is they've finished the phase-in of the system, so this is now the main thing doing it, and they just kept the dummy queue because they realized they just didn't have capacity. And the guy in charge was like, I live or die on these stats, so cook the stats. Just straight up, just absolute straight up fraud. And this, you know, when they found out about it, they just quietly sat on it and didn't really, you know, it went through multiple iterations before they finally got rid of it.
Yeah, they did. It's fucking incredible. Like they at some point rolled out a whole new system for like managing these calls, which in a very police kind of way was called Storm Unity. And then when that system was introduced, they like...
Police Scotland are just the biggest bunch of, oh, that's so fucking cool, wankers. You like real proper police kind of hours.
Operation Unity Storm.
Yeah.
But yeah, like even when that new like system was rolled out and put in place, like the local senior staff at the Bilston Glen call center, like they put the dummy system back in place because they really liked how that could manage, their number Wankstein and make them hit their target statistic every month. It's just it's fucking incredible.
Like
Apparently. Sorry, James.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the other thing about it is how it worked in practice is the most, like, you know this and don't need to be told it thing ever. It was, is it an urgent call in a postcode that doesn't matter? Stick it in a dummy queue and focus attention on the people who are actually important and likely to complain. Like, just the thing that we all know the police do anyway. So, yeah, wonderful stuff. Like, the more things change, etc.
Yeah, no, but it's another. I'm always happy to see that the nation's police services are spending their time on protecting the public or whatever it is they're supposed to be doing. That is not their job, and we all know it. But like to just literally like not just have a system, but like redesign and then reintroduce a whole system to make your number work is a truly incredible way of handling society. I mean, I know it would surprise most of our listeners that this goes on, but like to have, written proof of it is quite something else.
I can only hope that just like the way that statistically that all fell through, every single thing that the cops didn't show up for actually turned out to be a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much the only thing we can hope for, because otherwise police might start to be used for other things, and that's basically what I wanted to spend the rest of, well, not the whole of the rest of our evening, but like quite a bit of our time on.
Oh, good.
I've been interested, and we talked a little while ago for a while about like that the Tory party is getting like really strange with it. Apart from having Liz Truss and Boris Johnson and all that jazz, like they seem to be sort of in a very sort of state of confusion as to where they want to go next, especially since everybody and their cat seems to be predicting that they'll lose the next election. So like you already start to see these like various types of emanations as to like where the Tory party is going to go next. Are they going to be culture warriors or like true like free market lunatics like Liz Truss, or are they going to revert back to that weird like?
I think they're gonna go for sex crimes and apartheid. I think that's their end game.
Well,
the
yeah. So the very very possibly yes, but I think like in part why the Tory party has gotten so strange is because they obviously, for very obvious answers, they have not been able to provide like a real answer to like Brexit and what it was supposed to deliver for people. If it was about taking back control, I don't think anybody feels more in control, not like the mythical Red Wall voter and Stevenage Mavis or who the fuck was supposed to be. So they're still looking for
was the
that
end
answer,
game. Was the end goal of Brexit not that cheese should cost more than Coke? Because I think we got that.
So, in search of that answer, like May tried, the whole citizens of nowhere versus somewhere. Boris just tried to sort of skate by on his charisma or whatever it is. Truss, like I said, tried to do like max economic freedom. And I don't know what Sunak's really doing, but like it seems to be more like sort of old school London City, like capital based Tory things with like some cheap red meat for the base, like all the bullshit they're doing about trans issues, all that stuff. That's just something to keep the Sun happy with.
Wasn't he talking about fucking unicorns the other day or something?
Yeah, it was Unicorn Britain. The Rishi Sunak strategy is dead simple, and it's I think it's correct. It's keep your head down and let Keir Starmer fuck it up.
Yep,
that is his strategy, and I think it's working.
Very funny to use the Starmer strategy against Starmer and have it be effective.
Yeah, I know, right?
So, but I mean, like in terms of like basically like the Tory party management, it's like you can't make the promises, or at least the implied promises of Brexit work because they're trying to square like several circles all at the same time. Like, how do you build or rebuild a Great Britain while not touching any of the levers of capitalism and sort of relying on the old pathways. Like, you can't really do it.
You
So,
let
like
everyone
I said,
die and hope someone invents like a fucking patriotic robot.
So
I
like
mean,
I said,
imagine if every single person in the country was replaced with some kind of Roomba. They would absolutely like clean for the king. So
they couldn't stop actually. But then, there's one fatal flaw in your plan, Jamie, is who would empty the Roombas?
When they get full, you just like herd them into a fucking trench and bury them. I don't know.
You open up your garden again.
What do we do with?
I do like the idea
currently?
of like a Cheops pyramids, but like instead of big blocks of stone, it's all just discarded Roombas, like a burial tomb.
Yeah,
because then we bury Charles
some
inside
kind of elephant graveyard.
Henry's Hollow.
So like I said, we've had like One Nation, Cameron-style soft Tories, Liz Truss. The Tory party cannot be failed only by woke members of the civil service or something. And now there's this sort of new shard, this new idea or old ideas that they're repackaging called national conservatism Tories. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Because next month they're having their big like sort of coming out public conference where they're going to talk about their big ideas and, showcase what they think the future for Britain is under a renewed and reinvigorated Tory party, sort of led by, it's not a thing, but just for shorthand, by like 2019 new intake Red Wall MPs who want to like rebuild their local communities, but also execute travellers and migrants at the same time.
Right. I'm right. To be totally honest, Rob, I read a little bit of this earlier and I stopped because I started getting too angry. But it's just occurred to me, national conservatives, Nat conservatives, Nat cons, Nazis. Are we in the right, are we in the right ballpark for this? Is that where this is going?
I mean, I don't know. It's. Let me just talk you through it, and then I will leave you, the listener, and you, James, you can draw your own conclusions as to what these people are up to and what they think the solutions are. So, like I said, they have this big, it's like a 2 or 3 day conference. Their headline speakers include like Jacob Rees-Mogg, Michael Gove is going to be there, Suella Braverman, but also noted caliper guy Douglas Murray, noted turf Melody Phillips, spiked true OGs Frank Freddy and David Goodhart. Basically, everybody who's anybody in GB News is going to be there. Noted book eater and anti-woke elite guy Matthew Goodwin, lately of Navarra.
Oh my God.
Another panelist is barely concealed American neo-fash reporter Andy Ngo. I don't know exactly how you pronounce that, but he's fash, so fuck him.
Is it just no?
I think it's.
All right. There's also going to be like an assortment of Heritage Foundation freaks from the US. Oh, and also Darren Grimes is going to be in the panel. So, that's just and also one of his podcast guests, David Starkey, who you might remember as the historian.
That cunt.
Yeah. I hope this is taking place somewhere flammable.
No, it's taking place somewhere inflammable, Jamie.
So if you don't remember who David Starkey is, he was last seen on TV where he was previously an often invited guest when, in response to the Black Lives Matter protests, said that slavery was not genocide, otherwise there wouldn't be so many damn blacks in Africa or in Britain, would there? An awful lot of them survived. So,
Hasn't he got previous as well, though? Didn't he kick off?
He's got a very long
something?
list of fucking priots.
Yeah.
Huge. This is also the UK edition of this National Conservatives movement. So, as I said, there's a lot of freaks from the US Heritage Foundation. They've done a number of the same conferences, essentially all over the US, but also in Brussels. I think in Italy, they're all over the place. This is very much like a global network where previous speakers have included the neo-fash PM of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, who likes to talk about cultural Marxisms and woke people undermining religion and the traditional family. Draw your own conclusions as to what she means there. As well as Viktor Orban, who gave a rousing speech about protecting Christian democracy. And you better believe you know what he's on about when he says that. So, normally, I don't think we, or at least I, would pay attention to just a crank conference for a small group of caliper wielding weirdos. But this is a bit bigger, and it has a significant shard of the Tory party on its side, and also this is how, certainly on the right and the far right, this is how ideology gets formed through these weirdly well-funded think tanks, small cadres of true believers with high levels of access to the mainstream press. This is how that gets done. I should also say specifically,
is this What If Britannia Unchained was a live event?
It sort of is, but it also isn't, because Britannia Unchained is... I did that a long while ago. I read that with Sinan for one of his streams. Britannia Unchained is very much a Tufton Street project. It's very much economic libertarianism. It's no borders, all trade must be free. And if the trade was super free and the market would be super free, everybody would be the happiest. And also mixed in with, bullshit about trans people and cultural Marxism, as usual, the red meat that underlies all this. But this is not that, because specifically when they talk about national conservatism, they do come right out and say, actually, no, we don't want... we want free markets and free commerce, but we also think there should be state intervention and state support for critical industries and, tariff barriers for if it is deemed to be in the national interest. So it is very much within the sphere of the nation, within its borders, there should be max economic freedoms, but there should be big barriers between you and the ebbs and flows of global capitalism, between
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, we've not got into this enough, but if I was to say, is this what if one nation Tories were a thing that wasn't a scoffed at idea again? Is that what this is? Is it just them
sort of?
rebranding?
Yeah, I mean, in my brain, I always sort of associate one nation Tories with a kind of very. Also kind of socially liberal, kind of softly Toryism, where it's we want free markets.
Your Ken Clarks and David Davises, etc.
Yes.
Very traditional liberal, economically liberal, socially liberal. That kind of, people should be free to be who they are in their own personal lives, as long as they interface with the market in the correct liberal fashion. This is much more post-2016 US Republicans. That's who you have to think of, because it originally comes from a foundation which has a non-existent website and it's hard to find information about, called the Edmund Burke Foundation, which is basically another vehicle of the US donor class of Republicans. With very strong ties to the current Israeli government, groups like Christians for Israel, all that. Think Trump. It's very Trumpian in that way. It's America first. When Trump said America first, what these people mean is Britain first. So basically,
but no, not like that.
No, not like that. I mean, so basically, so what they want to do is export the sort of Trump-like model of railing against globalists, by which they mean cultural Marxists, by which, of course, they mean, while still being in love with capitalism. So they're trying to square those two things. The excesses of capitalism are perpetrated by a global elite that meets in Davos, which is bad because that's crony capitalism and globalist. But local capitalism on a national level is good.
What if the global elite met here?
Sort of, but also specifically they have to be British and also white. So it's a sort of like it is a sort of form of national capitalism mixed in with a certain, if you're of the right population class, let me put it that way, there's also a certain level of national socialism in it for you. In its most literal meaning.
Yeah, Davos upon Thames, but with better uniforms.
Yes, that would not be a better way of framing it. Just so you get a flavor of this conference itself, some of the panel sessions include Britain and the West in a biopolitical age. What? And if you're wondering, that's a weird title. Well, what they mean is white people should have more children because we are being flooded by other races.
Okay. I thought that was going to be some like fucking lockdown was bad shit, but that's okay.
Like,
that's
one of
3
my
steps.
mind went as well.
That's 3 steps further in than that. Okay.
The talks include, or talk titles include, this is directly from their website, Accepting Difference and The Case for Having Kids. That particular one, by the way, is by a woman called Louise Perry, who essentially wants to turn the clock all the way back to on the 1960s sexual revolution and have more traditional families, you know.
Mm-hmm. Is it me, or does conservatism lately just more and more resemble paedophiles worried by ecological collapse? Like every fucking 20 minutes, they're like, we need more kids. Better make some more fucking kids up in here. Just incredibly sus to my mind.
The market is shrinking.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here going like,
the Venn diagrams are collapsing, yeah.
Yeah. They want to take us back to the 1960s. Okay, can we go back to 1960s proportionate salaries, please? And like compensation and any of that? No? Okay.
No. There's also going to be a panel on national identity and culture featuring, like I said, Spiked OGs, David Goodhart and Frank Ferretti, both of whom talk a lot about the white working class and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a delightful, by the way, they've hired out the Natural History Museum, and the key fancy dinner speaker will be Douglas Murray, Caliper Guy Supreme. You know, the guy who...
Presumably the reason it's at the museum is because of them at fucking Skull's house still.
I don't think it's a coincidence that they've booked out the Natural History Museum and then gave Douglas Murray a podium. A guy like who, even by the standards of the depravity of British media, gets a hard time getting a podium anymore because he's too overt with the fucking calipers. There's also going to be a delightful panel called National Realism and Foreign Policy, which, like I said, this is very much a pro-borders kind of thing, which features among its speakers, which is, another sign that I get a little bit of the heebie-jeebies, Richard Dearlove. And if you remember who he is, he's the former head of the UK Security Services, and he's speaking on this panel in this context.
Excellent.
And one of the last panels, and then I'll stop talking about the panels, is called God and Country, which features among its speakers I think he's an American priest who's really in love with Christian democracy in Hungary and Orban, as well as a really...
Oh, no.
As well as a really weird academic who, I just briefly skimmed his shit, wrote a 3-part long essay... now, he's a professor of something at somewhere, I can't remember. But he wrote a 3-part, very long essay that obviously I'm not reading about how being able to shoot a bow is actually really important to like traditional and modern ideas of masculinity. And who believes that Roman Catholicism is fundamentally correct, but that if you read Roman Catholicism the right way, Pope Francis is wrong, so you shouldn't have to listen to him.
Woke Francis has gone too far.
There's a whole strain of Catholicism that is exactly that. They're very much the return with the V crowd, but for papists,
it's like the second Reformation. No, the first Reformation was bad enough. Like, it's real crazy shit. frankly. They're like, we need to have the masses in Latin with a priest facing the cross with their back to everyone else. Like, and the women need to wear, like, nets over their hair because they can't show their hair in the... It's, like, real, just, like, absolutely crazy shit, frankly.
Which is also the form of, like, high Anglicanism that Jacob Rees-Mogg is in love with. I think he also wrote, like, an article about, like, why Anglican services should be in Latin still, if I remember correctly, when they made that change. Anyway, so... That's sort of panel. That's the kind of framework we're in which this is being launched. So let's talk a little bit about the philosophy, if we can, be so generous as to call it that, as to what is national conservatism according to these people in their own words. Let me just read a little bit. This is from the conference website, which links to a statement of principles signed by pretty much all the US guys involved in this, and already some of the people, including some authors on Unheard, unsurprisingly, who have signed up to this thing. So again, this is from their website. The past and future of conservatism are inextricably linked to the ideas of the nation, to the principle of national independence, and to the revival of the unique national traditions that alone have the power to bind the people together and bring about their flourishing.
Morris Stanson.
I mean, this first sentence, you could almost, like, if you switch a couple words around, you could have put this in the words of Keir Starmer as well. We see national conservatism as the best path forward for a democratic world confronted by a rising China abroad and a powerful new Marxism at home.
Oh. We've got Marxism at home. Marxism at home, it's John McDonnell.
Please sign my petition. The famous lost chapter of the Communist Manifesto was please go to change.org.
I'm just picturing that triangle, and it's like, what's your stance on, Marxism? And one corner is we've got Marxism at home. The other corner is, Marxism, and the final corner is, pulling into a drive-through and ordering one Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
We see the rich tradition of national conservative thought as an intellectually serious alternative to the excesses of purist libertarianism. That's the trust thing, essentially. That's also why this is not Tufton Street. And in stark opposition to the political theories grounded in race. So they are trying to make out like they are not racist. They would like to repeat several times. They all wear a T-shirt saying, "I am not racist." And
when
we should all
say,
take them seriously.
Policies grounded in race, what they mean is the idea that racism is real.
Actually, that's kind of fucking, that's just whatever, because they always have that, we're not really racist, honestly. But I'm very interested in what they think the excesses of purist libertarianism are.
The United Nations and the European Union.
I don't think it's that
not the age of consent then.
No, do you know what I think's going on there? I think it's twofold. The first part is they're basically saying, critical race theory or anything like it, but they're dog whistling it rather than saying it directly.
Yeah. And the second part is, why can they use that word when we're not allowed to?
The second part is them going, don't worry, markets, we're not like Liz Truss. We're not going to do the crazy conservative shit. We're going to do market stuff you like. Promise.
No. They outright come. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but they do come out and say, in order to achieve this perfect national world where literally Britain is made great again, we are going to have to put up tariff barriers and fuck with some people and fuck with certain elements of global capitalism to make that work. It's not. It's subtly different, but it is an important distinction. And basically, what their fundamental argument is the age of global neoliberalism, of world trade order and ever increasing flows, which they call also the global world order, is over. and the nation state is returning, and you may spell that with a V if you like, is returning as the most important actor and protector of its own people, because we cannot, and foremost of all, should not rely on international institutions, certainly not ones like the European Court of Human Rights. So what they want to do is, and who they think this will appear to, this is as described by Tory MP Danny Kruger, who has signed this declaration and is also speaking at the conference. They see their new base as traditional voters from the shires and the suburbs, together with old industrial areas that have lost faith in Labour but share values. They are fraternal, industrious, patriotic, and anti-establishment. This new cross-class electoral alliance demands a new conservative radicalism.
Just say racists. This is taking too long.
Yeah.
Fully marbletized and loving it.
So, what is the glorious thing that they want to see? Where should national conservatism take us? Again, this is taken from the conference webpage.
Is it out to be shot?
We see the tradition of independent, self-governed nations as the foundation for restoring a proper public orientation towards patriotism and courage, honor and loyalty, religion and wisdom, congregation and family, man and woman, the Sabbath and the sacred, and reason and justice.
What the fuck? So
it's
I'm looking
incredibly
at the notes
returned with a V, all this.
Yeah. Totally fucking out of character for someone else to be reading the notes at the same time. But I assume you copied and pasted that.
Yeah. No, I wrote this myself whilst, doing little Hitler mustaches with one hand. Like
the reason that I'm asking is that honour is not spelt properly. It's spelt without a U. So what yank fuck have they got to write this shit?
I mean, like I said, this originally all comes from like American think tanks. So the Declaration of Principles is very much written from an American perspective, because they'd also reference at some point. It references, it's references like the American Constitution and stuff. But like, apart from that, this is what they want to like have happen. Blah, blah. We are conservative because we see such virtues as essential to sustaining our civilization. So this is very much a mission about, protecting Western civilization from decline or immigration, if you will. And that if we do not have these values, we will not maintain our freedom, security, and prosperity. So there's definitely like a threat and an other, both external in the case of like China and the WTO, as well as internal in terms of cultural Marxist. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned it before, but immigration. Definitely immigration is a bit, it could be a bit of a problem.
It was implied with the racism.
So there are 10 principles. Again, this is all signed up by all the Americans who are coming, but also by a number of the British attendees.
Give me the 10 pledges, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. First pledge is national independence. Basically, all nations are on their own, should be on their own, should not like submit themselves to transnational organizations like the European Union or even the United Nations or, again, the European Court of Human Rights. Because if
I'm glad they don't support NATO.
You say that, Jamie, but like at the same time, and this is a quote from their principles, we endorse a policy of rearmament by independent nations, which, more fortress nations, what could possibly go wrong? Also, good luck getting the transnational military industrial complex to play along with this, but I'm sure they'll manage somehow. The second principle is a rejection of imperialism and globalism. Like I said, all nations should trade freely and often with each other, but there should be no transfer of power to supranational bodies.
There it is.
I'm quoting, a trend that pretends to high moral legitimacy, even as it weakens representative government, sows public alienation and distrust, and strengthens the influence of autocratic regimes. So,
I mean, the really annoying thing here is there is actually half of a reasonable critique of the EU in that. Unfortunately, it's completely fucking insincere, and it's got nothing to do with the actual real genuine problems of autocracy enabling and like technocracy in particular within the EU. So no, D-.
It's also very funny in the EU, as was originally fucking conceived in the beginning, was exactly what they're fucking describing here as should be happening.
Yeah. All right, so third principle is national government. Essentially what they're saying here is the state itself should be strong in terms of like having a big military, hence the rearmament and stuff like that. But basically in terms of its internal organization should very much like drastically reduce the amount of civil service and administration that it does, as well as curtailing the role of, again, this is a quote, the policy-making judiciary. So it should all be very, everybody should be subservient to like a parliament or something. So basically what they want is a very weak central, much more like federalist state with highly devolved powers, unless, and this is the last bit, again I'm quoting, however, in those states or subdivisions in the state in which law and justice have been manifestly corrupted, or in which lawlessness, immorality, and dissolution reign, national government must intervene energetically to restore order.
So basically what they're saying is we want to give more powers to the nice areas that we like, which are all, lightly shaded. But meanwhile, we want the ability to fuck Tower Hamlets, basically.
Yes.
I've got to say, intervene energetically is like the best euphemism for throwing batteries at a goalkeeper.
I mean, 100%, like, it's barely subtext at this point, but what they're talking about is BLM or Extinction Rebellion, before they went all weird and started keeping order at the London Marathon and, all that jazz. Like, they're very much, the in-groups, the white, middle classes should be protected and given a good life, whereas the out-groups should be intervened energetically with. The fourth principle being God and public religion. This is, it's wild to have this back, by the way. The Bible should be read as first among the sources of a shared Western civilization in schools and universities, and as the rightful inheritance of believers and non-believers alike. Where a Christian majority exists...
Oh, get the fuck.
Where a Christian majority exists, public life should be rooted in Christianity and its moral vision, which should be honored by the state and other institutions, both public and private. So this...
Lenny Henry should personally be there to hand you a Bible when you go to the premiere.
The fifth one is rule of law, blah, blah, blah. We believe in the law, but believe it should also be subordinate to, parliamentary processes. But then at the end, of course, it says rioting, looting, and other unacceptable public disorder should be swiftly put to an end. So essentially, just give Stevenage Mavis like a railgun or something, I guess.
This just ties back to the whole, we should go back to the 50s in the way of social values, etc. It's just people should be better behaved. That's what they're saying.
Yes. So and here we get to the bit where, James, I know you were asking a little bit earlier, about the interplay on sort of economic terms. Like, how does this nationalism work versus like a globalized market and the free trade that these people say they love so much? So what they say is free markets are critical to developing human health and happiness. No, I will not explain further. So they are critical, but they are not absolute. Again, let me quote. Today, globalized markets allow hostile foreign powers to despoil America and other countries of their manufacturing capacity, weakening them economically and dividing them internally. At the same time, transnational corporations show little loyalty to any nation, damaging public life by censoring political speech, flooding the country with dangerous and addictive substances and pornography, and promoting obsessive, destructive personal habits.
This is typical transphobia. Nationalism good, but transnationalism bad.
I'm sure there's, they had to fit some sort of transphobia in somewhere, didn't they?
But you see what they're trying to do, right? The fault of why everything is fucked right now and why your kids hate you isn't the fault of capitalism itself. It's just that the globalized market, along with, shadowy global elites, have somehow corrupted a pure and better marketplace. They also talk a lot about like crony capitalism and that kind of stuff. So what they very much want is like not only a national conservatism, but a national capitalism. And I can't remember who it is. I think it's Mark Fisher who talks a lot about like the breaking capital when you're talking about the Brexit vote. Like the people who work in the big global banks in the London city are Remainers because they see, their value proposition is being everywhere all the time, all at once, versus like the more local shards, of capital, the local bourgeoisie who are rooted in their region, like the people with like a 500-person engineering firm or something based in Derby or whatever the fuck that only has British contracts, rightly sees the London city variety as a threat to its continued existence. So what they're aiming for is that second part. They want the like the JCBs of this world, they want them to continue existing, whereas the Disney Corporation, for example, that is not only transnational but also bringing wicked attitudes of gender and cultural Marxism into your kid's school. Those should be gone. It's, again, I can't stress enough how much these people want to return with a V to stealing a line from Riley here from Trash Future, but they want to go back to living in the painting they all have in their heads. And this is the way that economically they think that would work out.
They want Disney to return specifically to the values of Walt Disney himself.
Yes, very much so.
Big fans of Zippity Doodah. Like, as you're kind of saying that, I'm definitely hearing, like, as you're reading and quoting from them when they're talking about their economic policy and everything that's wrong, I'm definitely hearing a lot of brackets. I'm hearing a lot of brackets kind of dropping into place in those sentences.
100%. Although, on the other hand, they will get Paul Mason's vote because they do think state intervention is okay to further national defense. So, Paul Mason, your time is now. You can become a national conservative at long last.
That's how he finally gets into Parliament, curse timeline.
And also, this is how you know that it's not a Tufton Street project. They also think that the nation and the state should spend money on the public welfare. And let me define that further with the next one, which is called...
That sounds like it's got an asterisk.
It does. That's the next principle. That's called family and children. We believe the traditional family is the source of society's virtues and deserves greater support from public policy. The traditional family, built around a lifelong bond between a man and a woman, and on a lifelong bond between parents and children, is the foundation of all other achievements of our civilization.
Horse shit.
So like in this sense, it's okay to have social welfare and expenditure. Like they do a lot of stuff. It's like if women choose to be at home with their children, the state should provide money for that. But like if you just take that little sound clip there, I would say, yeah, I agree. But what these people mean is white mothers having a lot of white children. Like we should be very fucking clear on that. And also they should only have the right to do that if their husband goes out to the Paul Mason factory to build Ajaxes.
It's only done from a place of it's so that you can produce more workers that value can be extracted from, not that you're recognising that domestic work is work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's also very much about gender roles, the marriages between a man and a woman. I mean, this is that US Christian right thing, which like we don't really have, and I don't think that can land in Britain in the same way as it does in the US, but like it's definitely in here,
I will refer you to the massive amount of votes in the Scottish election.
Let's close that door before we open it.
Just saying.
So what they also say is like we do need a lot of public investment and research. Like they want to build again, and this is like an idea that I not the first time I heard it, but that I really remember as a big thing under Dominic Cummings is like Britain needs to have its own like DARPA, like the Defense Advanced Research Project, you know, like to do moonshot shit to build the next internet, because that was done with public funding. So, you know, again, purely on its own terms, that's something we would agree in. But then, of course, there comes the giant asterisks. Again, let me read. On the other hand, we recognize that most universities are, at this point, partisan and globalist in their orientation and vehemently opposed to nationalist and conservative ideas. Such institutions do not deserve taxpayer support unless they rededicate themselves to the national interest. Educational policy should serve manifest national needs. So, you know. You should go from your traditional family where the husbands beat the shit out of their wives into a sort of Brigham Young style private university setup where, you know, you are not allowed to hold hands between classes or something.
And also you learn numbers, you learn maths.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, they'll bring back the 11 pluses or something like that, won't they?
Yeah, in practical terms, that is, yeah. So then the next principle, would you believe, is immigration. So they start off by saying, look, immigration is fundamentally good because it brings, you know, new things and sources of stuff to the national identity. So they're not purely against migration unless, of course, it threatens the strength and dynamism of the nation or dissolves the political community.
Now that is a fucking weighted phrase. Dissolves the political community. I wonder what the political community is and how it could be dissolved. Like in acid? Do they mean that immigration, like they're going to do acid attacks, something like that? No. Do they mean like slipping away into the sea through erosion? Nope. There's something else we're talking about there.
Damn, some sort of impurity has been placed on this pristine surface which we have created.
Damn it, my political community keeps sitting in the front of the bus where it's not supposed to. Basically, until, this is incredible, by the way, until the nation itself, so in this case Britain, can figure out a balanced, productive, and assimilationist policy for migration, you're actually fine to do a total moratorium on immigration. So, you know, we just have to figure that out first, and then we can let people back in. Don't worry about it. That's definitely something that's going to happen. However, they
So hang on, you're saying that they're not going to let immigration continue. They're not going to bring more people in until they work out a solution for the people who are already here.
They just want to make sure that whatever migration policy comes up next is balanced, productive, and assimilationist. Or defined values that we, you know, understand, that we all understand.
Points.
And then the 10th point, just to round it off and make sure that these people are not racist, they say the 10th point, the 10th principle is actually race. Racism is bad, and racism is bad, should be rejected, you know, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Because the cultural sympathies encouraged by a decent nationalism offer a sound basis for conciliation and unity among diverse communities. The nationalism we espouse respects and indeed combines the unique needs of a particular minority community with the common good of the nation as a whole. So it's, you know...
So you can have some of the good ones, and that's okay.
Yes. So that's a lot of like broad stroke stuff. It's also very American. So if you're wondering how does that apply in, you know, near future practice to Britain itself, so helpfully one of the guys I mentioned, Tory MP Danny Kruger, who is on the panel and I think signed this declaration as well, got given space in the New Statesman to write a long form article about national conservatism, because of course he got space in the fucking New Statesman. I'm going to summarize his argument as briefly as I can because it's a very long piece. Basically, Brexit was to the main goal of Brexit was not to exit the European Union, but to take back control of our borders. But this project so far in, you know, has been now almost 9 years, I think, since the referendum. None of this has happened. Why, you ask? Well, let me give you a quick quote. Because we were never in the Schengen zone in the first place. No, it's almost that. It's the other thing. Because we've been stymied by establishment opinion, the axis of liberalism that runs from the City of London to the Labour front bench, through the universities, the civil service, and the media. So there are these.
This is
the deep state.
No, this is stabbed in the back narrative. Except it is. It's by the rootless cosmopolitans rather than the what was the other one again? Like Jesus.
Yeah, it's the citizens of nowhere and the cultural Marxists who are stopping true, honest, patriotic Brits from achieving their full potential when working in the Ajax mines, essentially. The Port Mason Memorial Ajax mines. So
if only people weren't so woke, we could export more eels or some shit. Fuck off.
So the cause of the housing crisis and the NHS crisis is all the fault of illegal immigration, blah, blah, blah. They are being put up in fancy hotels. We all know this is all bullshit. This is just a giant dog whistle, but, However, he does go on to say, which is, I found not interesting, but gross at the same time, that legal immigration is also fundamentally bad because it stops suitably trained and incentivized Brits to do the jobs that migrants do now. Essentially, because we still have legal migration in Britain, that stops, because they can still import workers. That means British companies don't invest in technology or people because they can just get workers from abroad legally. And that leaves good young British white citizens to either basically rack up debt and become gay cultural Marxists because of our universities, or, quote, join some low productivity firm or public service. And basically because we can either go into debt and become trans, I guess, or, have unfulfilling lives being stupid in the public service. And that is what leads to crime, addiction, and depression. So, it's not only illegal immigration, but it's legal as well.
I mean, we do admit it, Rob. We say be gay, do crime. So
my man's seen a meme and shat himself.
This is so fucking grim. I'm sorry. This is god awful.
I thought you would enjoy this particularly. Blah, blah. There's, of course, a whole section on cultural Marxism, which has led to nihilism. And in this is where it gets real funky with it. The current mode of cultural Marxism and debates about gender and race, essentially, has led the current generation to embrace Nietzsche instead of Marx, by today's many liberals and many genders of university graduates. Quote, in the new religion, not Karl Marx, but Friedrich Nietzsche is the prophet. Everything is reduced to nothing, destroying the foundations of a civilization that was built with care and sacrifice over centuries. That's because the modern liberal doesn't care about worker rights anymore, but is just obsessed with genders.
Just like, it doesn't
He's been reading my posting about the Labour Party.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that these fuckers have only heard the Nazi version of Nietzsche, basically, right? Because that's where they're going with this. Because he's not like, that wasn't his philosophy. It really wasn't, and his philosophy wasn't in and of itself bad. Like, his main philosophy was like, oh man, it appears we're approaching like an end of history where like all the traditional institutions no longer work. And rather than just go, well, I guess we've got that sorted then, he said, well, we need to find a basis for some kind of happiness and morality that isn't dependent upon these ancient conservative institutions. That's not nihilism. In fact, it was his entire life work to try and like do something other than nihilism. And like after he got institutionalized, his sister took like his work and rewrote it to be like, more Nazi based, frankly, and palatable to their regime. And so, the nihilism of it all, and the only answer to nihilism being like the, pursuit of power, that became the main focus of it. And this is just ahistorical, aphilosophical doggerel. It's actually just really disgusting. I'm not even that big a niche guy. I'm not really into him. I think he's pretty niche. But like, give the guy his due. That's not what he's about, and that is in no way, shape, or form connected to
I mean, you say this, but on the other hand, my dog can't stop barking. I don't know what's up with him at the moment. So essentially, to overcome all these like civilizational and real economic concerns, he suggests bracingly that Rishi Sunak should therefore embrace the principles and philosophies of national conservatism on the basis that it's really been working out electorally well. I mean, the specific people that he cites are Ron DeSantis in Florida, which I'm going to say, well, we'll see how that goes, as well as Giorgia Meloni in Italy. And again, that's just neo-fascists in government. However, he does then specifically say that those people, as well as Viktor Orban in Hungary, are a little bit like too fash, but national conservatism can remain like good and open and honest and, you know, British and plural, while also doing good things. However, this is like the policy offer now. So here we get into like what does he mean by national conservatism? What should that look like? And this is, you know, links nicely in with some previous episodes of ours. The heart and start of our offer to these voters, so again, that's the, you know, traditional Tory voter plus the left behinds, ex-Labour, red wall, blah, blah, bullshit. Mm-hmm. The heart and start of the offer to these voters is to take back control of our streets and our borders. That means tough action against crime and low-level yobbery. Is a great word, and continued investment in our armed forces to reverse the cuts of recent decades. And it means fixing our broken asylum system, by which he means the new illegal immigration bill is good, actually, but could go a little bit further. He also says explicitly... I love that
they always point out low-level yobbery. Like, so we've got to stamp these guys out before they grind too much and come back as high-level yobs. With, like, enchanted weapons and armour.
Maybe he's just been playing that shit Mafia game that I keep getting ads for, you know. Level 59 Mafia Don. Once you get those, your society's fucked, mate.
You know, you've got to stop the problem before they get access to level 20 yob spells.
Yeah, I know. Look out, he's got a purple canistella. Like, yeah, okay.
The hoodies in my local town have prestiged, and now we can't stop them anymore.
The hoodie is integral to the set bonus, otherwise the build doesn't work. Anyway.
So yeah, like I said, the new illegal immigration bill is good, but could go further. Specifically, Britain should get out of the European Court for Human Rights because, you know, supernatural judges, etc., etc. We should also remove the Gender Recognition Act as well as the 2010 Equality Acts, because those things have actually made things worse, not better, because now those uppity minorities have legal backing to open their mouth rather than wait quietly for, you know, white people to make things better for them. He also says that should be helpful the family to buy a house, look after kids, care for parents as they age. That should be done through good family wages, as well as a tax system that incentivizes and supports couples to have children. But those couples who have children should have a greater choice on how that money is used. So what he's talking about is school vouchers and academies.
Which is okay, because when you said the family, I immediately assumed level 59 mafia boss.
Yeah.
when they say support for the family, what they mean is support for the patriarch. Like yes. You know, like it's very going back to the whole every payment, every support you get from the government goes to the man of the house. The woman's barefooting in the kitchen, and the children are being sent along to, well, I don't know what they'll call the equivalent of Hitler Youth under this, but like, you know, probably National Conservative Youth of some kind.
Something along those lines, yeah. So that he also describes like a sort of an economics package. So again, this is very much in line with the principles that we talked about before. Britain should be more national, but also remain a free trading economy. So what that means is more state support for things the UK is already good at. He helpfully lists some of them. He says sea power.
Yeah, we're brilliant at that. All the ships we make work. That's good.
Yeah. We we talked about the carriers for a whole episode. They're great. Agri-tech, which all right, sure. Then he just says
soil's dead in the next 30 years. That's good. Yep.
as well as advanced manufacturing. No, he will not explain any further, because that's apparently something the UK is already good at, as well as multiple other applications of our excellence in science. No, we will not
also batteries.
Do you know, listening to that, it suddenly struck me, Rob, we're not good at literally any of that at all anymore.
No.
Like not even the fucking ephemeral research in science. We're not. It's like Oxford and Cambridge get a bit of support in it, and everything else is fucking being eaten alive by their business schools, parasiting them all.
I'm updating. We used to build shit to we used to be capable of things.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, none of that is true. It's in fact farcically not true. We're not good at building shit for going in the water at all. We're absolutely not leaders in agriculture and manufacturing. Are you having a fucking laugh? Like,
no, not manufacturing, James. Advanced manufacturing. There are important differences. More robots.
Is that the thing? Is that the thing that you just keep researching when you reach the end of a skill tree and like you've got nothing else to do?
Yes.
Sure. The repeatable technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, in order to do these things, the UK should also be more than ready, but even eager and willing to rip up like existing trade deals in order to do this sort of state support. I mean, what I'm guessing he's talking about is also getting rid of the WTO at that point, because I think technically speaking, you can't do any of this stuff. I remember with the WTO, and also this is fantastic. Britain needs to renew its technological sovereignty to quote remove the Chinese state from our security apparatus.
Getting real mad about routers.
It's like it's kind of farcical. It's the whole we need to be really scared about China doing so. It's like straight up Republican. Do you know what I think this is? I think I've cracked it. This whole thing is basically the backup plan of the Atlantic Council to make sure Britain stays on board with America's foreign policy. I think that's what this ultimately boils down to.
I don't know. I think that's like giving the Atlantic Council way too much respect. Like they're dummies as well.
Probably.
It's just,
But I mean, that's what it is. It's all about like Anglo-centric kind of must align with America at all costs. And if that involves going fash to do it, then so be it.
Yeah. I mean, I really, honestly, on the other hand, I'm really...
honor and civilization wrong, so I'm kind of with you on that one. Like, this is fully come out of America. There's no way this was written in Britain.
Yeah. Sorry, Rob. We both talked over
on the other hand, I really am going to miss my late night chats with Xi Jinping, where you plot the downfall of decadent Western society. Like, he's a good guy. He listens. I like that. And specifically on housing, because he does say this is a real problem, and again, that is very true. We need an audacious policy that delivers the new houses we need while respecting the desire of communities to resist ugly new developments. So, he's found the synthesis. How? It must be rooted...
All new model towns must be situated at least 16 minutes from the next place.
Well, almost. It must be rooted in the tradition of property rights, but must also break the cartel of property developers. That policy is a system of local land trusts, acquiring land on behalf of communities to develop, lease, or sell homes to local people. So what if Stevenage Mavis was in control of local development? I can't see this going poorly.
Totally say, but correct me if I'm wrong. Local land trusts as they exist now, are they not used pretty much exclusively for like green energy shit? Is that not usually where a wind farm ends up?
I don't know enough about this to give you an answer on that one. Sorry, David.
No, just in my experience of the community wind farms I'm aware of, they came through things like that. That's how they were actually able to go ahead in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be, but I mean, I very much doubt that. Like, also, I like this is just so funny to me. It's like, all right, so if what we do is like we build this series of local land trusts, which would presumably be run by the parish council or whatever, some kind of archaic, stupid British institution. It's like, the people on those boards, the people in your council or who have the ear of the council are already the cartel of property developers. You would just cement in the same situation, but they would just have to make, more. What's that stupid village that Charles has built? It's not Poundbury, but what's it called again? Not Cadbury, but that model village of Prince Charles's.
Was it not Poundbury or some shit like that?
It might be. But essentially what they want is that. And all of this, basically, all these great things will deliver for the British people a thing that he calls the equality of condition, wherein people in every part of the country have a decent shot at a good life. So not a guarantee, you will have a decent shot. And if you fail...
The equality of condition... Every one of the crabs will remain in the bucket.
Speaking of remaining, I've looked it up, and you're half right. It was pouncing upon Tampax. So,
and if you're wondering, and this is the end of this guy's piece as well, why should you trust the Tories to do any of this after 13 years of not doing any of this? Well, that's because in 2019. By stealth, and you may not have noticed it, there was actually a brand new government, a very different one, with a new voter coalition that loves national conservatism, which wasn't in place before. So it's only now that it can be tried in its true and its best form, unlike all these other conservative things that have been tried before or not. So, wrapping this up, right? What is this? What is this national conservatism? What are they trying to do? Well, I mean, I think unironically, what they're trying to build is a strong Britain, great nation, but only for its own culture, its white culture, and its own white people who are now either, tell themselves that they are or perceive themselves to be threatened with dilution through migration. That is, you should interpret that about as racistly as, these people incentivize it. What they are genuinely trying to do is create a sort of mid-layer of socialism or state benefits, but only for the in-group, which is white, heterosexual, married people, where maybe the woman stays at home, but, as James was saying, that is once again patriarchal and goes back to living in the painting. Now, of course, all of this is incredibly contradictory. The UK should be strong and national. It should also be free trading. The family should work hard and have a career, but also stay at home. All the in people should be protected from the ravages of global capitalism, but only have a shot at a good life. None of these things are guaranteed. It's, none of this... If you consider it rationally, none of this can work. However, and this is where I think this type of language has more than a fair shot at making it into the national discourse, is it does build extremely well on the existing incredibly paranoid, fearful of outsider discourse and framework that we currently have in the media and in most places in our politics about woke, about trans, about Black Lives Matter, about cultural Marxism. It just takes all these things and just makes it one external enemy that can be combated by a national socialism for the white working classes, for the white property developer and the people in the shires. It takes those fears, which are being stoked incredibly well and are not being stopped by the Labour Party, and just says we can take it one step further, and we can actually hold out the promise of a kind of economic safety net, a state safety net and economic relief that neither the Tories nor Labour in its current iterations are willing to provide for you. And, it does the one thing that the current Tories cannot do or refuse to do, despite all their talk of levelling up, which, as we've discussed many times, is horseshit, which is treat for the good boys in the in-group and a return with a V to a long-lost, glorious past that, that door was kicked open with Brexit, and before that, to be sure, as well. And, these people are now waiting to step through it. And maybe I'm worried about nothing and it'll just end in another failure and we just get, whatever, 4 years or 5 years or 8 years of mealy-mouthed technocracy under Keith. I think we will, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if this type of thing is like how the Tory party mutates in the future. Because you can get everybody, apart from like the Tufton Street hardcore libertarians, on board with this shit.
Yeah, well, that's largely what I think this feels like. This feels like it's largely a repackaging of what is already there. Like this is largely already like one. This is probably does represent the bulk of the Tory party, like, but only when you conveniently package it in such a way because they're a fucking just pack of snakes and they've all got very competing interests, which is just par for the course with the fucking Westminster Parliamentary Party. This is the kind of thing that I think they will maybe they're not testing this out or anything like that, but they're just kind of laying it on the table as a possible thing to do with the next leader, at least like someone should be from this kind of platform.
Because this is not Rishi Sunak. They're going to have to get rid of Sunak.
No, it's not.
Do this.
Yeah, they would need to get rid of Sunak. They would need to put someone else in place. And I mean, like, you fucking Braverman or Badenoch might well be the fucking person to do this. Maybe not so much Badenoch because she's one of those fucking Tufton Street lunatics. But I don't think there's a great risk of this. This feels like remember when there was the fucking, what was it? The fucking phrenology conference that happened a while back, and there was a bunch of fucking big names there, and it was very heavy on
the Toby Young thing.
It feels
Toby
like
Young,
that.
by the way, also an accredited speaker at this conference. Would it surprise you?
Of course. So yeah, it feels like that to me. It doesn't feel like this is a thing that's like actually happening, and like as an imminent threat. But yeah, it could well be the avenue that they go in for the next time round. But I don't think we're going to get to that point because I think the bold limited technocracy pish is going to be enough to just continue on after this election because there's no way Starmer's fucking winning it.
The one last thought I had, and then we'll move on, is what makes this a bit more like dangerous to me is that this hooks up national conservative Tories to like the American money hoes. You know, like the Christian right, dominionist, weirdo billionaire funding that those guys already have. I mean, I'm sure there is already cross-funding, but I think this could like open that door even further. And that, you know, given Britain's famously shit laws around campaign finance, you know?
Possibly. There is a pretty strong streak, I think, of anti-Americanism within certain upper echelons of British society. Just a great fucking type of exceptionalism as part of being, you know, a Western nation. So I don't know how successful that might be on the realms of like straight up fucking government. I think that might be limited to funneling shit tons of money into astroturf and outrage over social issues. I don't know if that's going to have much strength getting into actual government, but I mean, we'll see. I get where you're coming from, but I don't know.
There's also, I mean, to be honest, depending on how they approach this, it could just be a total dud.
Yes.
Because there's pretty compelling research that shows us that, you know, trans issues, like, it turns out people will not come out and vote for pro-trans stuff. They're just not that invested in it generally, right? And when I say people, I mean the population at whole on average. They're just not, it's not an issue that gets them to go, God, yes, I must get to the polls today. However, anti-trans stuff, transphobia, it very much seems like it motivates people to vote against it. And the lesson that's coming out of America is everywhere they've pushed the anti-trans agenda really hard, it's been a dud.
Yeah.
So if they go down the money hose, and they get the ideological importation of, well, you're transphobia central, I guess we should, you know, bang on that, it might implode on contact with the electorate. Mm-hmm. They'll get all the mums letters, but I mean, you know, they're already, what was it, National Conservatives, sorry. So, like, you know, I'm not too worried right now, but definitely what I'm more concerned for is the compromise position that's somewhere between where the Tories are at now and this, and what that will look like. So stay tuned for that one. Yeah. What's the synthesis, basically?
Bad.
Yes.
Glad we squared that up. Okay, well, let's round off episode 199 in an appropriate way with some comment or commentariat.
Yeah. Commentariat.
Remember, As a senator, he fought on behalf of IRA terrorists threatened with extradition.
Yeah.
I have long regarded Joe as a Vietnam draft dodger and no friend of the British people, even though his genes are probably more Chichester than Cavan, at least on his father's side. Comment or commentariat.
Commentariat.
Is that the sweet, sweet sound of Brendan I hear?
Jamie?
I already said commentariat.
You said it before I said anything.
Yeah, but I stand by it.
That was in the Daily Express. Commentariat.
Neil McKinstry.
No, it was Adrian Hill, who is an ex-soldier who served in Vietnam and a former British diplomat now based in Switzerland.
Uh-oh.
Just an extremely cursed CV.
Wait, when did he serve in Vietnam?
It doesn't say. In Morley, West Yorkshire, more than 15,000 of Chesterton's secret people turned out to celebrate St George's Day. Virtually no mention of this anywhere in the national media. The BBC, which loves to celebrate Eid and LGBT QWERTY plus Pride Year, probably considers St George's Day racist. If there's one lesson we should have taken from the Brexit referendum and Boris's 80-seat majority underwritten by the Red Wall, it's that the navel-gazing, metrocentric, political media bubble doesn't speak for Britain. Trouble is, the wokerati now have their claws in every fibre of government, local and national. Brexit was supposed to be about taking back control of our laws and borders, but even Tory MPs buy into the leftist agenda, only yesterday forcing Home Secretary Sue Ellen Braverman to shower illegal migrants with legal aid. Comment or commentariat?
These days, if you say you're celebrating St. George's Day, they throw you in prison. They arrest you just for saying that you're in favour of St. George killing that dragon. And this is comment.
Yeah, okay. It's either comment or it's one of the speakers on the National Conservatism Conference next May.
Commentariat, Daily Mail, Richard Littlejohn.
Oh, okay.
Whoa!
Oh, did he actually like style Sue Ellen Braverman as Sue Ellen?
Yes.
Is that some hilarious bit he's doing? Is it?
I don't know. I assume so.
It's racism.
Also, did he start with saying
that
that there were secret people who were celebrating St. George's Day?
Yep.
Yes.
Are these the mole people?
I think he's getting paid to advertise for the upcoming Marvel series.
For years they've been kept sealed away by the Morris dancers, but their time is coming.
Yeah, the rites were completed and they emerged fully formed. The elite's erasure of the moral boundary between man and beast is now replicated in the scrubbing away.
Not the moral boundary between man and beast. Come on. We fucking need that. That shit's load bearing. You can't get rid of that.
Oh, this is someone who's...
the moral boundary between Nico. The elite's erasure of the moral boundary between man and beast is now replicated in the scrubbing away of any distinction between man and machine.
Yes!
Animals.
Oh man, we're going to get
building
cyborg
Terminators
beasts
to fuck dogs these days. You couldn't make it up.
Animals should be our equals. Machines will one day be our superiors. That's the dual rallying That's the dual rallying cry of a cultural establishment that has completely lost faith in the human species, which sees us as a swarm to be managed at best and a plague on the planet at worst.
Yes.
This guy is sitting with his open D&D monster manual, going down the monster types, going, swarm, beast, magical beast. Well, we don't have magic. Oh, cyber beast. Yeah, and I'm loving this.
The bourgeois turn against the Christian come modern belief in human uniqueness lends itself very well. lends itself very well to new forms of authoritarian control. So the eco-fatalists introduce ever more stringent social measures designed to limit our polluting impact on our surroundings, while tech fatalists deploy nudge techniques, algorithmic manipulation, and outright censorship to limit the toxic influence of our bestial passions and beliefs.
This
Comment or commentariat.
This is the most incredible 1-star review of the Animorph series of books and TV series ever made.
You have definitely found some amazing content here, David. I kind of want this to be commentariat. I kind of do, because I feel like we could get a guy out of it and have some fun with it. I feel like it's comment, no. So
God, this is so good.
I'm going to say comment, and if I'm wrong, I'll be happy.
Okay.
I want to turn over this entire podcast to whoever this is. This is... This is so good.
Jamie?
Is this it?
Commentariat.
Commentariat spiked online, Brendan O'Neill.
Amazing! The master!
Holy shit! Oh, man. Oh, man. Speaking of somebody who has prestige, holy shit. Jesus. Oh, man. That's the
That bit
that's
about
the
animals
Levels
monster
are
at work.
shaped in the forehead.
Animals should be our equal, but machines should be our superiors. It's like, show us your deviant art, Brendan. I bet you've got some fucking filth on there.
Well, we already know that at least one part of him is an inflation fetishist.
Oh, man. So powerful. Embrace the new flesh. Discard your cat.
As soon as I realised the weakness of my forehead, it disgusted me.
I've got a fourth one, but you know what? I'm not even going to bother with it because it's just
No,
not going to
top
compare
out.
to that. We need to just end on the high.
Unimprovable by AI or gorilla. That's like...
Oh, well, thank you very much for listening. Please do heed the message at the start of this, which is go join the fucking Patreon. We would very much like to see you on the Discord, and you can call us a cunt there as well. Alongside that, we've got the Twitch streams, twitch.tv/PraxisCast. That's Wednesday and Thursday evenings. Just keep an eye out on the Twitter for times, which is at PraxisCast. And you can also get t-shirts, which is praxiscast.tmail.com. You should also buy them. And I think we'll call it there.
I do have one piece of news.
Oh,
Okay, so...
the plugs are coming from inside the podcast.
The plugs are coming from inside the podcast. We're approaching the time where my life gets a lot less crazy, and as a consequence, there's some things that have been promised that will be delivered. So, an end to Elden Ring will be coming soon. There will also be the promised Skyrim playthrough that several of you people wrote in and decided what we're going to do for it. But most importantly, we're going to try and get the stream banned by Nintendo. So we're going to do, at some point soon after its release, a stream of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So if that sounds like your jam, stay tuned. More notices to follow.
Cheerio.
Bye.
See ya.
Goodbye.